if you've watched our coverage from CES or NAB the last 2 years, you know that in the drone world there is one player above all else, and that's DJI, which is why I'm so happy to speak with Adam Najberg. He is the Global Director of Communications from DJI. Adam, thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me, Padre.
Now, anyone who has read or flown anything resembling a drone knows the name DJI. You have built up a global brand, and you really dominate the market. What do you attribute that to? I mean, it's not just that you make products that are easy to fly. It's not just that you make products that are really high quality. You've garnered sort of a mind share of the drone space.
No pressure on us at all. Not at all. Yeah. So I think in the early days, you'd have to say it was because we were first movers, but that doesn't keep you in first place, and neither does being easy to fly or having good technology. I think we put a lot of stuff together. It starts with having 1,500 research and development staff. DJI is an IP center, and for a China-based company, this has been almost unheard of in the last 30 years. This is no longer an outlier to me, though. I think that this is a really great example of how you lead a market. And then the other things we put in there, we're constantly innovating, but innovation without the ability to have a brand or market that brand is really important. Of course, your products have to hit the shelves and work when people take them out. And then it comes back to that same thing that you said at the beginning, which is ease of use.
When you got into the game, drones were around. They were mostly home built. They were interesting oddities. Maybe you could get a shot or two, but it was typically with a low quality camera. And now, whenever I think of the latest and the greatest in drone technology, it's probably coming out of DJI. Let me ask you about one of the more recent developments, and that is this idea of geofencing. DJI really started developing the technology last year. It's come to a head this year. Do you see that as a way to protect this hobby, this industry that we like so much? Because I think without technologies like geofencing, there becomes a mass hysteria about, oh my gosh, drones are falling out of the sky.
No, you're right. We pioneered geofencing in June 2013. We came out with the first version of geofencing. It was fairly brute force, very binary, either fly, no fly. And that's what was available. And for us, the important issue was we want to always balance. When you sell when you sell a consumer product, you want to make sure that you're not hobbling it or handicapping it in such a way that it can't be used or enjoyed. But at the same time, you want to recognize that people need to learn the etiquette, they need to learn the safety, and this is a very good way to balance that. We did find from December of last year, we launched what we call Geo. Mm-hmm. And Geo is, everything in technology moves so fast. So this is an updated version that has live feed of temporary flight restrictions. It also allows you to, if you have a registered account, to self-authorize and unlock certain areas for a short period of time. What this comes down to is we fundamentally believe that if you're flying something, you should be accountable for what you're doing. You need to know the rules, you need to be safe, and therefore the brute force isn't necessary.
Let me talk a little bit about that, because I firmly believe that DJI is committed to pilot safety and to pilots flying responsibly. In fact, DJI does offer flying sessions for people who want to get into it. But there is a danger to being number one, and the number one is that almost every crash, almost every irresponsible pilot that you're going to see on YouTube is going to be flying a DJI because it is so accessible, because it is so available. Has that been difficult to combat? I mean, I don't think a DJI Phantom or an Insight is a dangerous quadcopter, but I think sometimes people who fly them shouldn't yet be flying them.
So, as you say, when you're the market leader, with that comes great responsibility, and we acknowledge that. And I think that the most important thing for us is, because probably 7 out of 10 quadcopters in the sky are DJI copters, that, what this requires is a balanced and measured approach. What you don't want is regulation to be made hastily out of fear, out of concern, because of one thing that happened. I mean, just to point out, there have been tens of millions of safe flight hours. When manned aircraft started to fly, and think about how many fatalities happen all the time. What's happening right now, this is a very compressed timeline. These are much smaller craft. They are very easy to fly. You take your hands off the controls, they stay right where they are. I'm not downplaying any of the safety risks or concerns, but I think this is about education. I think this is about teaching people to be responsible. I think it's making sure that you have the instructions on the box, on the web, everything available for people, and the new pilot experiences as well. I mean, we are surrounding people with a rich collection of information on how you can do this responsibly. Probably the same way that car dealers do when a new technology comes out in their car. But that's really where our responsibility has to be.
We've addressed corporate responsibility. And now let's talk a little bit about what you've got, because the DJI booth is one of the destinations, must-go destinations for NAB. What do you have that's new for the show, and what are you most proud of in your lineup right now?
Well, surprisingly, we came out with the Phantom 4. We had one on the desk a little bit earlier. We came out with the Phantom 4 in March, but that is a really big talking point at the booth. I think for a lot of people here, they haven't seen it yet. We launched it March 1st, and it was in the Apple stores, and then it just recently started to be available at other dealers. So for many people, they're catching the first glimpse. The things about the Phantom 4 that are so cool, we've raised the bar right now for consumer drones in the market. It's the only drone out there right now that has obstacle avoidance capabilities. It has some basic machine learning going on inside. There are 5 cameras slaved to one central processor. And what that does is it lets the Phantom 4 make smart decisions. So it's able to see something in front of it and say, there's an obstacle. Should I go over around it, or should I just hover? But it makes it a lot safer to use. You can fly with more confidence. It's harder to crash. And I think people think that is very cool. It also looks like a high-performance drone.
It does.
Our other drones, or the Phantom 3s, they're cute. And it's really, if you're flying your first drone, it's very nice to not have something that looks menacing. But this is the Ferrari of drones as well. It's very sleek, it's shiny. It also can fly in its sport mode at 45 miles per hour. That's something that, people who have a lot of experience at the stick, that's the mode that they're going to want to tootle around in.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about the lineup, because DJI does have a very interesting collection of products. You've got the Phantoms, which, they're not beginner craft, but they're for the people who just want to get into it. Maybe they want some decent photography, some decent videography, along with some fun flying. Then you get to the Insight, which is definitely a camera platform, it's beautiful. I'm sorry, the Inspire, I call it the Insight.
That's okay.
The Inspire, which is a beautiful platform with a beautiful camera. I wouldn't choose that to go sports flying. I would choose that to make a great tracking shot. And then you've got the definite pro versions of your octocopter. Is this lineup going to continue, or do you see the lines coming down at some point, maybe combining the Phantom and the Inspire?
I hadn't really thought about that. You want to come over and work in my product for us? I'd say that the Phantom is showing that it can be both a high-end consumer drone and in one model, and an entry-level consumer drone. I think with the Inspire, you're seeing sort of a crossover where you're getting the folks who are really good at flying. They're going to be willing to pay the $3,000 or so, $2,500 for an Inspire, and they want that kind of performance. But it's also something that increasingly, a couple of NFL teams have come by and talked to us. They use our equipment. We keep hearing other usage cases in verticals. First responders, firefighters using Inspire. So it definitely has that professional niche, but it's a crossover niche. You're getting photographers and aerial videographers who want to use those. And then, as you mentioned, the heavy lifters, the hexacopters and the octocopters. We just launched the M600 integrated flight controller, and I'm mentioning this only because, not because it's a product plug, but because this is something that makes it easy if you're a filmmaker to get it in the air very quickly. You don't have a lot to assemble. Everything's pre-calibrated. So I think what's happening is the market is segmenting us more than we're segmenting the market.
Got it. Right. So people who want to take a few photos in the air and maybe some fun family vacation video, you choose a Phantom. If you are more of a prosumer and you actually want to get some really high quality shots, that's when you choose the Inspire. And if you're going to be hanging a red camera off the bottom of your quadcopter, you get the heavy lifter.
Right, although I should add one thing. Claudia Miranda, the cinematographer on Life of Pi, for example, he spoke at a DJI event this past weekend, and he said he went out of his way to try to not like the Inspire 1 RAW. It was a very interesting moment to hear him talking about it, because I think he could take it up in the sky and make anything look good, but showed us a little bit of a clip. It was really interesting. His point was he had a $20,000 helicopter that couldn't take off because of some inclement weather, but he had his Inspire 1 Raw there, and he said, oh, why not? I'll give it a try. He put it in the air, and the image quality that came back, he said, just captivated him. It slightly changed his workflow in post-production, but he just said he was convinced that this is definitely a tool in the arsenal when you're a filmmaker.
And I think that's the measure of success here at NAB, when you present a product that affects so many of the vendors here, because it's not just a quadcopter, it's a camera platform, it's a crane, it's a jig, it's a lighting platform, it's a scouter. So really, kudos, very well done.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Adam Najberg. He's the Global Director of Communications at DJI. Now, if they wanted to find more about DJI, more about any of the products that you offer, where can they go?
This is the part where I get to talk about our website.
This is the plug, yes.
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the microphone. Store.dji.com has everything you want from DJI.